Okay, I purchased one of the HB Industries safety deletes on an APC9 Pro. They're universally compatible. And along with it, I also got the reduced weight selector switch springs. I've already installed the safety delete, but I took it all back apart because I want to show a more scientific approach as to what a difference the change of the safety selector switch springs does to the weapon. So they advertise that it's approximately a 35% reduction in the weight of the original equipment manufacturer. And if any of you have operated this before, you know that it is a really, really stiff safety. So I'm going to go through the process of first showing you what the weight of that selector switch is with the stock springs. Then we'll put in one spring, then we'll put in two new springs, and I'll walk you through how I do my measurements and allow you to draw your own conclusion as to what you want. So I think everyone can agree that this is a really stiff spring. And before we even get into measuring it, let's just look at a couple AR-15 receivers. This one's one that's about 2 years old, a Daniel Defense DDM4. And if we were to measure this, and how I'm going to do all of these tests is I'm going to put my trigger weight spring at an angle that perfectly intersects right here. So on every one of these guns, they're all using AR-15 style grips, and we're going to just test it so you can see. And I need to keep my finger over it just so it doesn't pop off of it. It's not a perfectly vertical edge. And this one is going to switch at 3 pounds. I'll just do that again. And I've done this in advance of the video. I could tell you just flat up what these numbers are, but I want you to see the process I'm using. And there we go, consistently at 3 pounds. This is also a Daniel Defense DDM4 that's about, 5 years old. Really high round count on this one. Let's do it. Same process again. I'm intersecting that point right there. That one broke at 2.5 pounds. So we're consistent with these. You can see what we're dealing with. 3 pounds, 2.5 pounds. So now we're going to look at an APC9 Pro OEM springs. Again, intersecting that point right there. Just keeping my hand over it to keep it from jumping off. And I am already up to 4 pounds. Little over 5 pounds. So really very, very stiff. Do it again, just one more time, just so that you can see consistency. All right, so I've got my position, consistent. There we go, 5 pounds. So we can determine that our OEM switch is 5 pounds. Let's take it down to some lighter weights. To remove it, you probably watched one of the videos already on the internet. We just need to turn this switch to about halfway between. Now you can start to work it out. You just want to be careful that the detents don't go flying as you do so. There we go. So those are the two detents and OEM springs. So first we're going to put 2 brand new springs in. And if you compare new versus old, there's just a visible difference. Right? One is very tight, thick coil. The other one's a very loose coil, much finer wire. And these lock up in those detents really nice. They don't fall out, whereas the OEM springs do. You're going to need some needle nose pliers, a really fine point, or some tweezers to get these in, or attempt to get them in. Okay, so the detents are now in place and ready to receive the selector switch. To do so, you're going to reverse the procedure. You want to keep it roughly halfway between fire and safe, and just kind of wiggle it back and forth until it goes in. All right, so this is going to be our lightest setting. This is with both HB Industry springs installed. Again, I'm going to line it up. And this one is going to break at 2 pounds. So this is even lighter than my AR-15s, 2 pounds. Do it one more time just to prove consistency. 2 pounds. So I personally feel that's maybe a little lighter than I would like. If this safety selector was not so large where it ran the risk of getting snagged on something, like if it was about half its size, I might run 2 pounds, but with as big as it is, just from a safety point of view, I definitely want to increase it a little bit. So we're going to remove that. And I don't have to take it out all the way if I don't want to. I just want to get to one of the 2 springs, tap it out, it's out of there, and pull the new HB Industry spring out. And I'm going to put a little dab of grease in there to hold the OEM spring. I'll take my needle nose pliers and make 15 attempts at trying to get it in the hole. Hey, there we go, first attempt. Okay, so it's in there now, and I'm going to reinsert this. Okay, we're good. Let's check our weight on that. Same process like all the other ones, keeping everything aligned the way it was. That was 3.5 pounds. That was 3.25 pounds. I think on the first one I did, I had a little bit of finger drag on it, so let me try it again. Yeah, that's 3.5 pounds. So there you go. That's the moral of the story here. If you want a really light selector switch, put in both springs. If you want something that still has a little firmness and grip to it, in my opinion, eliminates the risk of accidentally bumping the safety off, I would put in 1 spring, and that's the way I'm going to run mine. Installing the safety delete or the original safety switch, very simple process. There's a really fine spring here. Just drop it in there. You have a detent that will really want to come out of that hole. So you're going to kind of do a two-handed process. You're going to get this detent pressed in and don't let it go flying. It's one of those parts that you'll never find. And the safety needs to be in the fire position. There we go. So you see that I'm now working it over the detent, and I just push it far enough that it's now locked into place. It won't come off unless I take a sharp pointy object and push down on the detent. Then I could slide it over at the same time. Mission complete.